Get Rich Education is brought to you by International Coffee Farms. Own your very own parcel of a Panama coffee farm today.
Welcome to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, giving you information and ideas on the investment that has turned more ordinary people into millionaires and billionaires than anything else, and can provide you with more wealth and happiness than you ever thought possible. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, and educator, Keith Weinhold.
Welcome to Get Rich Education, episode 39. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. We're distributing an abundance mentality because the scarcity mentality is abundant and the abundance mentality is scarce. Your number one investment in your life is you. And today we're talking about getting in touch with your inner investor purpose with Rich Dad Advisors Josh and Lisa Lannon. When I say be who you are becoming, well, how do you know who you want to become? You know, I think when an investor is younger, they tend to be more interested in making money, and only when time passes and they learn more about life and how society works do they then become more interested in a purpose and more directly contributing to society. Well, instead, look at it this way. If you align yourself appropriately early, you can have a purpose-driven business and make it profitable at the same time. For example, I've mentioned many times how my mission as a real estate investor is to provide housing that is clean, safe, affordable, and functional. Well, as soon as I start to do beautiful as well, with a lot of my C-class apartments, I start to lose when I do beautiful because I'm not in the luxury or the resort space. That's not my core business. I know that about myself. Hey, I'm sure there are plenty of property owners out there that provide substandard housing where their tenants' windows won't open or their hot water doesn't work, yet they collect the rent anyway because the tenant has nowhere else to go. But see, if I did that, I wouldn't get a sense of purpose, satisfaction, or meaning if I maintained that condition or had a manager that maintained that more accurately. Those unsafe or dysfunctional conditions for families, that just wouldn't work for me. But my mission doesn't have to be your mission. Today is about helping you find your mission, vision, and values. Take time to get in touch with Robert Kiyosaki's Business Investor Triangle. That's the BI Triangle, which has mission, team, and leadership as the three sides around the triangle perimeter. You will find yourself more fulfilled. And this is nothing to rush. Remember, this is not get rich quick education. It's get rich education. Though it might be get rich young education, that can certainly happen to you, kind of like it has for today's guests. As well as helping you find your mission compass, our guests today are in the real estate investing business too. Once we come back, you'll meet Rich Dad Advisors Josh and Lisa Lannon on Get Rich Education. Through Get Rich Education and International Coffee Farms, you can own your own half-acre parcels of a passive income-generating coffee farm in Panama for as little as $12,000. It's a low-risk opportunity with an average annual return projected to be 13 to 15%. The farms are professionally managed for you on a turnkey basis, and you own the land. And you can give as well as receive by helping International Coffee Farms create good jobs that pay a living wage and provide medical, pension, and other benefits to very poor Panamanian coffee farm workers and their families, often for the first time in their lives.
This is Rich Dad Advisor Ken McElroy. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold and don't quit your daydream.
Josh and Lisa Lannon are both entrepreneurs and Rich Dad Advisors on social entrepreneurism and behavioral change. You know, there's really a global trend of individuals wanting more from their life's work, and the Lannons are on the cutting edge of that, building organizations and really investing with a purpose, focusing on a triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. The Lannons are founders of Journey Healing Centers, a private adult drug and alcohol treatment program. That company has been featured on MTV's Gone Too Far, USA Today, Psychology Today, People Magazine, NPR, and a lot of other media. And the Lannons are known for their personal story of how they overcame life's obstacles, applied Rich Dad principles, and built a solid business and moved on to the fast track. Both of the Lannons speak internationally about the coming trend of social entrepreneurs and building businesses that are passion-driven. It's all about finding your why, investing with purpose, and building businesses that make a change. So I'd really like to welcome them onto the show today. Welcome to Get Rich Education, Josh and Lisa Lannon.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith.
Yeah, thank you, Keith.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, it's really great to host you. You know, sometimes on our show, we talk about how doing the right thing is more important than doing things right. Only once you've found that right thing do you really concern yourself with doing everything right. And making a dollar and making a difference are really two different things. But at the same time, I think the question is, can you do both? Make a dollar and make a difference. So in changing your mission, how did you get where you are today from where you were?
Yeah, that's a great question because often I grew up thinking, well, I either can make a difference or I can make a dollar, but I couldn't do both. It was like I had to sacrifice values. I had to sacrifice what I really wanted to do. My parents would say, grow up and go get a job, that kind of stuff. Don't do what you want to do. Go get a job and work for money. And it really was a programming system that's integrated into our school systems as well, as you got to go get a job to make money. And it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, I did it, but it didn't make sense. It actually killed my spirit when I got jobs, growing up, doing different odd jobs and trying to find my place, going, what the heck am I supposed to be doing?
I agree with what Josh said. I grew up, my story is similar to a lot of others. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job with the government. And in my family, it was become a doctor, a lawyer, or a government employee because that's where the money was at and they would take care of you. So I found my path, eventually becoming a law enforcement officer, which I did enjoy, but I always knew there was something else out there.
That's not how we met. She was a cop, but we didn't meet that way. Although that would be a good story.
That'd be better, yeah.
Yeah, so we met in Las Vegas. I was running nightclubs. Luckily, my father is an entrepreneur, so I had the opposite side, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki had the rich dad, poor dad. My mom's side was go to school, get good grades. My dad's side was, go to school, get good grades, but there's another possibility out there of entrepreneurism. So luckily, I got to work with him, apprentice with him for a number of years, and that's where I met Lisa. We had the number one country nightclub in Las Vegas, and she'd come in and do the line dancing, and I fell in love at first sight.
Yeah, he fell in love at first sight, but I didn't meet him for a year and a half after he first put his eyes on me.
Well, I call that market research as an entrepreneur. I had to keep my eye on her.
And I
some due diligence, yeah.
Exactly. But kind of fast forwarding is that even though I was doing the entrepreneurial thing, working for my father, I had a little bit more flexibility. I still wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. In other words, that I was good at my job. I got a lot of people drunk, and that's what the business plan was. Get them drunk, let them have a good time for the night, and they'll come back.
Yeah, and on the law enforcement side, I was dealing with addiction and crime on a nightly basis. I worked the booking floor in Las Vegas, so I dealt with everyone who was arrested during my shift. And, we had a great relationship, Josh and I, but over the years, he started drinking too much, and it became a problem to where not only was I dealing with at work, but also I'd come home and deal with his addiction as well.
Yeah, it was really the full circle. Part of my job was to get the party started, and I'm naturally an introverted person. I'm a quiet, shy person. So I would drink to kind of take the edge off, and it was socially acceptable, and I would drink with the customers. The problem was I didn't know how to shut it down. Once the club closed, I was like, well, I'm going to keep going. Just that's my personality. And it led to a problem where our marriage wasn't working anymore. Financially, it wasn't working. Spiritually, I was broke all the way around. And it wasn't until one night Lisa came home. I'd been out drinking for about 3 days. And I was sleeping on the couch and finally came home, I think a few hours before you got home. And so I'm still out of it. And she comes home and I'm laying on the couch. I open my eyes. And for the first time in a long time, what I saw was the woman I fell in love with. Now, you got to picture this. She did have the gun on her hip, the badge. She was in full uniform, looked stunning. And when I looked at her eyes, I did think at first she was going to shoot me. And by all means, she should have.
Yeah, I was done with the addiction. I was done with coming home, and my emotions were based off what state was Josh in. And finally, I had to take a stand back for me and offer him a choice. Was he going to come down this road with me or not? So that night I came home, I stood over him, and when he looked at me, I said, "That's it, I'm done. You either go to rehab today or I'm divorcing you."
That was a powerful statement, and I do think you had your hand on your gun when you said it. But it was the lifeline I was looking for. I was ready because I was done being sick and tired. I was done trying it my way because it wasn't working. So I was like, I'm in. I have to surrender to win. So I surrendered to the process. I was like, look, I'm all in because it was a fork in the road. And I think a lot of us have those, maybe not that extreme, but we have forks in the roads where if we make a decision one way, our life will go in a different direction. Or we'll make another decision, our life will go in a different direction. So it's really those critical moments, those decision points in our life that are so important is, am I choosing a higher purpose? Am I choosing a higher calling? Or am I choosing the same path that I've done before, even though it might be comfortable and I think it's safe, it's not getting me ahead anywhere. So I had to take the leap of faith and say, okay, let's go into the unknown. Let's go into rehab. Let's go into this whole new venture that I have no idea what that's about.
Yeah, and the decision point for me was giving up my marriage, going down an unknown road that I really didn't want to go down, but I was willing to at that point.
Yeah, because if I didn't choose in, you would have divorced me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did. Went into a rehab center, started the healing process. We did a lot of healing together. Came back out of the center facility. It was fantastic. Great experience. I mean, it was rough, but had a great experience and came back out, went right back to work in the nightclubs.
Huh.
And it was just like, okay, there's got to be a reason, one, I'm still alive. There's got to be a reason why our marriage is still intact. There's got to be a reason for all this. And I'll never forget, in 2001, I was working the floor. There's about 1,500 people in the nightclub. I had my earpiece in. I'm doing my thing. And it just came over me as I cannot do this anymore. Spiritually, I can no longer be a part of a problem. I want to be part of a solution. Instead of ripping families apart, because in nightclub industries, fortunately, there's a lot of one-night stands and that kind of stuff that goes on. It's like, I don't want to be contributing to that. I want to help people bring their families back together again, have people reclaim the power that they may have lost through addiction. And Lisa kind of had the same aha that night. So we sat down and we discussed what's the plans for our future. Instead, let's take a committed stand to building businesses for social calling for good and making of money. Why not have our life's purpose be tied to a business venture?
Yeah, as I'm listening to this, I'm hearing about a lot of strength and a lot of potential in your relationship that may not have been there yet. You know, it had to demonstrate an amazing amount of resolve and endurance on Lisa's part to live with, someone that had a problem at that point. And at the same time, for you, Josh, to basically say that you are going to go into rehab is, to some, that's like admitting failure. And some people don't want to admit failure, and that's why they never move on. Yeah.
And we had a lot of trauma bonding in our marriage. There was a lot of stuff that we went through, but because we went through it and we made the commitment to not only stay together, but to heal together, then the bonding, the marriage became even stronger and our partnership became stronger. So when we went into this entrepreneurial venture together that we'll talk about, it gave us the strength, the why to say, we've already been through the crap. This isn't that bad.
Well, getting yourself healed is one thing, but trying to make that bigger and do that for others, I mean, that's turning yet another corner. So what motivated you to take on that huge process?
There's a saying out there that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And the night that Josh got out of rehab, I had driven to California to pick him up. And we had dinner with his father and his stepbrother and stepmother. His stepbrother lived out in California. And as we were leaving, heading back to Las Vegas, his father ran out to the car, stopped us, and gave us a gift. And it was something he picked up from an infomercial. He had not read it yet. It was still in the package. And it was Robert Kiyosaki's Choose to Be Rich.
Huh.
And at the time, we were like, okay, yeah, whatever. And we ended up having to promise to him that we'd listen to it.
Yeah, that's how my father, son, you have to promise me you'll listen to this. I'm like, oh, man, he's pulling that card. All right, yes, sir, I will. So I did.
So we listened to it on the way back, and, you know, the teacher appeared. We were ready. It unlocked a whole new world for us, and that's really what became another decision point for us. We made a choice to be a difference in the world.
Yeah, and it wasn't that we went out to get rich. We just wanted, one, to keep saving our marriage, and two, for me to stay sober. So in order to do that, what we came across was, well, in order for me to stay sober, I have to create an environment for other people to stay sober. So that's when we got the idea of creating our own drug and alcohol rehab centers. And it was really through reciprocity and by giving that we started to create a rich lives for ourselves personally, spiritually, emotionally, and then ended up financially doing very well by being in service to others.
So when you're in service to others, you've kind of put this pressure on yourself, if you will, of now I have to be the example. You know, I need to be the best version of myself if I'm going to try to help others be the best version of themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what right would I have to talk to people about sobriety if I was relapsing constantly? I had to be the role model. Same thing with financial education. Is in order for me to talk about wealth, I got to have some wealth. It's called integrity. And it's so important part of why we love the Rich Dad organization and Keith, what you're doing and stuff is these are people that are doing it. Not just theory, not just ideas or book smarts, is we've gone through some of the street lessons. And because of that, it's like, let's share our story, what worked, what didn't work, what to watch out for, and help other people along that process.
And one thing that likely, I'm going to guess, helped transform you guys is when you're in one industry and you want to migrate to, I guess we'll call it a more reputable industry, you know, both in business and in life, you attract certain teammates. And when you're in the nightclub industry, all your teammates, they're probably going to have a certain basis and a certain ethic. And if one keeps that sort of reputation and they're in that industry, you know, what kind of people are they going to attract into their lives? So as you're turning the page, you're probably able to attract better teammates.
Yeah, I had a lot of good drinking buddies, but very few friends. And I realized that when I quit drinking because they were like, oh, you don't want to hang out with us anymore. You know, they started razzing me. It's like, really? Yeah. Come on, man. I thought you were my friend. So you're right, is when you switch a direction in life, you really see who your true friends are just by taking a committed stand on whatever that is.
Yeah, and it's also, as you start to build something different, it's finding like-minded people that can assist you in that journey.
So kind of fast forwarding this a little bit is that we found our passion. We found our why. There's a reason why we went through all the hell that we went through. So that's our passion. That's our purpose. Why not build a business that ties into that? So what we did is we raised the money because we had no money. We raised the money for our first treatment center, and that was a whole process in itself of rejection and no, and at best we got a credit card. You know, the banks were telling us, go back to school to become counselors. And it's like, well, we bartended for a while. Doesn't that qualify us? They're like, no. So there was a whole process there. But we knew because of Rich Dad and the principles, we knew how to set up our financials. We knew how to, even though they were terrible, at least we had some basic understanding of them. We knew how to build a business plan using the BI triangle. And we knew ultimately the business that we wanted to be in was real estate.
Exactly. So our business, you know, drug and alcohol rehab was our passion. We'd been there, we'd done that. We knew what families and the drinkers went through. And we knew how to hire the right teams.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, our real business was the real estate. So we purchased large McMansions or large residential homes, and we would lease them to the business. And we'd have them on long-term 10-year leases, renewable every 10 years. And we made our money through the rentals.
Yeah.
And we never took a paycheck from the company.
That's a good point. We volunteered for 13 years in our company because that's what our passion was. We knew is that if we wanted to make more wealth for ourselves personally, we had to serve more people. So what that meant was we had to expand the business, we had to hire more people, we had to acquire more real estate, which then helped more people get sober. By being generous is how we were able to, in essence, retire in 2013.
Wow, congratulations. That's fantastic.
I'll go back here. So when Josh said retire in 2013, we were actually out of the rat race in 2004, but officially retired in 2013 when a large private equity-backed healthcare facility bought Journey Healing Centers from us. And we retained all of the real estate, so the new company leased all the properties from us, and we officially retired from Journey.
Yeah, so that's a great point, is that we sold the business, but we kept the asset. We kept all the real estate, 6 facilities in multiple states. So that's how we're able to move completely. We moved from the E quadrant employee to the self-employed quadrant to the B, the big business owner, and then now down to the I quadrant. And that's based off of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. So exclusively to the I quadrant. That's when I say we retire. Just because it's a word that people go, what? You retired in your early 40s? Well, late 30s, early 40s? Like, yeah. But that doesn't mean that the mission, that the passion went away. We still have our calling. So it's like, okay, let's do it again.
Yep, so we're building another facility.
Yeah.
That's terrific. So when you sold Journey Healing Centers, you've retained the real estate and you have passive or mostly passive income, at least, from those former businesses, which are the real estate that you still own.
Yeah, it's all passive income because we set it up just like we would any other business deal with another tenant, is that lease actually formed a property management company. We have a lease agreement between our 2 entities, had deposits and everything that you would go through the process, whether the tenant was a affiliate of you or not. So that way, when we sold the business, we said, the real estate is not for sale. They go, that's okay, we don't want it. In full disclosure, my wife owns the real estate. Here are the leases. And I said, yep, that all looks good and makes sense to us. They scrubbed through some of the due diligence and checked it off. And it was like, that's when we knew, okay, this, what we did works because another person, a third party, actually signed off on it.
It sounds like this success story is founded on, really, the BI triangle. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the 3 sides of the BI triangle and why that was foundational?
Yeah, so the BI triangle has been integral to us since the beginning, and we really focus on the outside of it, the mission, the team, and the leadership. So our mission was very important. Our mission was our why, and that's to get the person you love back. Or Warriors Healing Warriors is our new facility, healing our veterans, military, police, all of that. And then building a strong team around it with Josh, myself, and our other partner as the leaders.
The BI triangle was an important part of the process that we learned building our first business. And that's Kiyosaki's business and investing. It's called the 8 integrities of business. And going through that process or studying that BI triangle, we really found is that it's a blueprint to not only build a business plan, but to actually build and run a successful business. So we would develop our plans in each department according to the BI triangle. Okay, what are the numbers in the BI triangle? What are the communications? What's the systems? What's the legal structure? And so forth. We would go through the whole thing. So that really became a cultural piece in our business. And like Lisa said, is that our focus as leaders, we focused on the outside of the triangle, which is called the context. So which was mission, team, leadership. Anytime we ended up inside of the BI triangle, which was cash flows, communication systems, legal, product, that meant we were in the business. So we had a conscious tool to know as business owners, are we working on the business or in the business? So anytime we got pulled in the business, because it happens, I mean, especially in the beginning, we just consciously knew about it and said, this is not our job. We get to empower people for these positions and step back to create systems, to create processes, to create key performance indicators to empower the people to do that as we step back and run the business.
Yeah, sure sounds like that was integral to your success, because really the world is filled with great products that, well, fail probably because they don't follow the principles in the BI triangle, starting with mission, team, and leadership.
That's true.
Yeah, and we really expand on the mission part of it too. So, you have your mission statement, and then you have your values of the company that go along with the mission statement and the vision of the company. And once you have your vision in place, and then what are the values of the company, and are they in alignment with the leadership and the team and the owners, then you can really hire, fire, and promote based off the values of the company.
Yeah, it's a good point. So connecting that to real estate, like, okay, what's the mission of your real estate company? Provide safe, affordable housing. Got it. Check. Okay, what's the vision of it? Oh, in 5 years, I want to have, if I'm just starting out now, I want to have 50 doors. Great. Check. What are your core values? Well, the values is I want to provide safe, affordable housing. Okay, good. What else is it? Boom, boom, boom. So you start going through a process where it starts to create a blueprint for you. So when you start moving forward, not only can you make decisions easier, but those on the team can also have a clear picture and a vision of where the direction of the company is going. So when you go through a recruiting process even, you get people to buy in on your vision, your mission, your values. And it's like, if this doesn't align with you, it's okay, but this isn't a company for you. So like Lisa said, it really becomes a great tool to use for leadership development of your team.
Yeah, when you have the right leadership and you're following a mission congruent with your beliefs, it's pretty easy to attract those right team members, and those right there are the three sides of the triangle.
Right, exactly. Now, it doesn't always work as rainbows and unicorns by any means, but it's a great tool to help when the pressure goes on. And it's like, okay, let's go back. What's our vision? What's our mission? So it keeps you in check. It really does.
Yeah, and when there's upsets in the company, you can start to learn and tell easier, okay, is this a difference in values, or is it a difference that someone deserves some more training? So it does become a great tool within the company and lifting and empowering people.
Yeah. Yeah, usually it's a values upset when you have upsets with team members.
Right. I think people in most cases would rather hire and bring on teammates that actually have higher values than better competency if it's either one or the other.
Yeah, so that's where, like with a core value, say as a social entrepreneurial venture or a mission-driven venture, is the person there just for the paycheck? And that's something to ask, is where are they at with that? Why do they really want to work for the company? Is it the mission of the company? Is it the vision of the company? Or is it for the paycheck? And it's understandable if it's like, no, I just want the paycheck so I can take care of my family. I'm in a bad situation, whatever that is. It's like, okay, great, but that might not be the right company then for you. Because there's some companies that their core purpose is to make money. And to me, I understand it, but that's not a culture that I want to be in because it's a very different culture than people that are there for the mission, people there for the purpose, there for people, and they're making money. Just a different way of being. And that's what we think, and that's what we've seen is a real trend of people coming out of college and going, you know what, I want more out of my life than just paycheck to paycheck. We don't buy into the program of go to school, get good grades, go to college basically, leave college with a bunch of debt, get a job that you really don't like to pay off the debt, then to buy a house that is probably more than you can afford. So then you're even burdened with more debt, get married, have kids. It's just like invest in a 401k or a super or a RRSP, depending on what country you're at, and then hope that it's there. People are not buying into that program anymore, and I don't blame them. I don't buy into it either. It's like, that's crap. It's not working, and I don't want to do it.
For example, most people or most companies I've heard of, when they hire based off skill set. And while skill set's very important in our companies, we also make sure they have a strong value fit with the company. So they're a fit for us culturally, and they're in alignment with our values, meaning their values are the same as our top team leaders and as the company values.
It's a lot easier to teach competency than it is to teach values.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
See, with the mission being the base of the BI triangle and really the foundation of a business, I'm really suggesting to my listeners right now, of all the Rich Dad Advisor books, and we have had most of the Rich Dad Advisors on the show now, I think you should read them all. They're all at a terrific standard to be a Rich Dad Advisor book. But the first book that you probably want to read is The Social Capitalist by my guests, Josh and Lisa Lannon, because if you don't, then how are you going to know what tax structure that you might want to read about in Tom Wheelwright's book or Garrett Sutton's book, or just what kind of sales style suits you in Blair Singer's book? You don't really want to go so far down the line of learning about a business and going ahead and practicing and engaging in that business and find yourself so far out of position years down the road that it's not congruent with your values and that you have to go tear it all down and start it all over again in order to find something fulfilling. So that's why you really want to embrace this book, The Social Capitalist, first.
Well, thanks so much for that plug. I mean, really appreciate it, because you're right. You got to find out your why first. What business do you want to build? What business do you want to be in? Because you will become a student of that, and a lifelong student, hopefully, on a subject that you're passionate about. And to find that why, then you can start building the BI triangle around that passion, around that calling. So you no longer have a job, you have a purpose.
For 39 episodes now, we've probably spent the greatest amount of our focus really talking about the compelling why for thinking differently as it relates to investing, but it's also thinking differently and reflecting the person that you want to be and that you are back onto the world with what you do. Josh and Lisa, you probably get the question sometimes, what is a social capitalist?
Yeah, Keith, we do get that question a lot, because when you read The Social Capitalist, it does bring up that question. Well, what is it? The more common name for it is social entrepreneur. So it's meaning doing good in the world and making a profit, that you can do good in this world, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a nonprofit unless you want to be.
Yeah, and just like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there's a duality there. Everywhere in life, there's dualities. Night, day, left, right, up, down. So same thing with the socialist and a capitalist. If you think about it, there's a duality there. So we're looking at how do we merge the two together? How do we have a business that serves people, serves the planet, has a higher calling, as well as make money? Because in traditional terms, they were supposed to be separate. They weren't together. But with this new realm of, like Lisa said, social entrepreneurism, people can make money and make a difference. And that's what a social capitalist is all about.
Yeah, and our millennials and Gen Y generations, our younger kids coming out today, they are looking for something that has meaning. They want to do good in the world and make money as well. So that's what a social capital is bringing both worlds together.
Now, traditionally, someone might have wanted to be a social capitalist before they knew what that term meant, but they had to go get a job, or they thought they had to go get a job. But with it being easier than ever to launch one's own business today, is it easier to become a social capitalist today?
I think so. I think most people want to be their own entrepreneur, but there's a lot of fear that gets in the way. And that's why we really took time breaking down behavioral change first. We have to deal with what Blair Singer calls the little voice, what goes on inside of our head. So a good training thing to do is, if you want to, say, be in real estate, go get a job, even if it's volunteering in a real estate agency. Learn the ropes, learn what they do. Have your training, in essence, someone else's dime. So then you start to generate momentum, starting to learn the field, your industry, and then slowly start building your own business on the side, which in essence like a part-time business. So you can slowly start making those gradual changes to become your own social capitalist in whatever field that you want to get into.
And real estate is a social entrepreneurial business, because you're providing housing for those who may or may not be able to afford a home themselves. And you can go bigger, whether it's assisted living or apartment complexes. But there's so many ways to look at social entrepreneurism as doing good in the world, no matter what field you want to go into. You can add that social piece to it.
Josh and Lisa, what's the best way for a listener to learn more?
Thanks for asking that, because that's important. It's right in line with what we did too. We learned is that we had to change our behaviors. So what we did, being in the behavioral change field, is we've taken our 13 years of experience in this particular field, and documented, I think we have 8 or 9 hours now of learning on a program called Creating a Rich Life. And in that program, it talks about creating a rich life with health, wealth, and happiness, because all three is important to create a rich life. And we have that on the socialcapitalistbook.com website, and there's access to it where you can learn more.
That sounds like a great resource. I really recommend that you go check that out at thesocialcapitalistbook.com. Josh and Lisa Lannon, thank you so much for making your debut on Get Rich Education today.
Thank you for having us on. We really enjoyed it.
We really love what you do, Keith, and support the mission, support the Get Rich Education podcast. So keep up the great work, because you are creating change, and thank you for that.
Yeah, and I agree. And the different guests you have on caters to all the different purposes and passions and whys that are out there for our listeners.
It was a real pleasure having you on. Bye-bye now.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks to Lisa and Josh Lannon today, Rich Dad Advisors and Social Capitalists. They're such a class act. I don't know if you could detect it. I recorded the first part of our discussion a few days ago where something happened with my recording software and it just inexplicably stopped recording before we finished, and the Lannons made time again today to come back and finish our discussion. Now, if you're committed to choosing the right business for yourself where you can make both a dollar and a difference at the same time, check out thesocialcapitalistbook.com, where you can check out the Lannon's Worthwhile Creating a Rich Life program there about finding the most meaning in what you do. As a result, you will find more fulfillment in the long run. Next week for episode 40, I'm going to have a discussion with a mortgage loan officer asking him how you can position yourself for conventional financing on investment properties today. We're going to get into percent down payments, credit scores, all those sort of things. Hey, thanks today to Josh and Lisa Lannon. Until then, I'm Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
You've been listening to Get Rich Education, telling you what the wealthy won't tell you about real estate and investing. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to visit iTunes and leave your comments.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.